Mr. Dutton, just on the Chinese ship off Australia's southern coast, are you concerned about the route it's taken, and what would a Dutton government do to actually deter such activity? And specifically, are you concerned such activity is about collecting intelligence on the undersea cables leading from different parts of Australia to another? And why would China want to be looking at our undersea cables in that way?
Well, the first charge of any Prime Minister is to protect and defend our country. And Anthony Albanese is at sixes and sevens on what to do. One part of the government is saying that the Australian Border Force is monitoring what's happening. The other part of the government is saying it's the Australian Defence Force that's monitoring what's happening. The Prime Minister himself doesn't know what's happening. That's the problem. And for a Jetstar or a Virgin pilot to have to notify the government of what was happening off our shores is a disgrace. And it shows the gap that there is in intelligence collection and in the exercise of our military forces at the moment. It is unbelievable that the Prime Minister can't explain to the Australian people what is happening here. Of course, there's a collection of intelligence, and of course, there is a mapping of undersea cables. Australia is an island nation, and we require the connectivity to the rest of the world. Our internet, the way in which we communicate with our partners, with our allies, and with the rest of the world is contingent on those cables. And yet the Prime Minister of our country can't stand up and be honest with the Australian public. And I think this is a test that the Prime Minister has failed, and I think the Prime Minister needs to be frank. The other thing which I think is completely offensive to the men and women of the Royal Australian Navy is to draw some equivalence between the men and women of the Royal Australian Navy and their exercises that they conduct in our country's name and that of the Chinese Communist Party and what those vessels are doing. Now, the Prime Minister needs to explain that statement. He's made it now on multiple occasions. He does it in a way to try and dismiss what is happening, but this is a very serious concern for every Australian. And we need to make sure that we have the defences, and we need to be a strong country, and we need to have leadership to stand up for our interests. Because if we don't, as history has demonstrated, weakness does not prevail in difficult circumstances. And when the Prime Minister says to the Australian people that we live in the most precarious period since 1945, he's right. It's based on intelligence, and it's being played out not far from our shores right now. And yet the Prime Minister himself has no idea what he's doing.
When would it